All right, part 2. Let's see if this works. Just doing a mic check for this. Okay, so we actually might have a working mic today. Okay, so we actually have a working mic. All right, sorry for the different like setup for today. Hello guys, welcome to another episode of the Robbie Basel Show. Today I do have a headset on. The mics weren't working. It's been a mess, honestly. And I'll put the new link on Instagram so you guys can all watch it. But today we have a very interesting episode. We have a preview for the Gold Cup, which there are some things that did change. So I'll let you know every team that's in it, when all the games are. We have transfers. There was a big one that was officially announced this morning, and we have some other news, including a team going in for a player that Arsenal is targeting. So that'll be very fun to talk about. We also have an MLB season update, plus the NBA draft happened last night. But we'll begin with the transfers. And per Fabrizio Romano, Manchester City have made a inquiry about acquiring Declan Rice, which is this is a problem. And I hate having problems with Arsenal because we already have enough problems with failure on Arsenal. I mean, I've had enough problems with failure today. I have a freaking headset on my head, so usually I have like a mic in front of me, but they're all not working today. So, but the big thing today is what's going on with Declan Rice is a problem for Arsenal. They have targeted Jurien Timber for Arsenal, which I think is a fantastic direction. The depth at center back for Arsenal has been a problem. And it's been a problem for a couple of years. They've added William Saliba. They've added Gabriel. Those are the two main center backs. After that, it is a mixture of Rob Holding, who's been there 2 years too long, and a bunch of names people won't even know about. The problem with Arsenal right now was their defense, and they're trying to add to it with Jurien Timber. They removed Granit Xhaka from that holding midfield position, and that's why they made the inquiry for Declan Rice, which I think is the perfect direction. The issue now is where do they go from here? Arsenal have had two failed bids. City have lost multiple players. They've lost Gundogan to Barcelona. That happened a couple of days ago. I think we talked about that on Monday. And they've had other rumored players to leave as well. João Cancelo, he's going to be leaving. Other teams will be making a bid for him as well. Probably a club that needs a fullback. Arsenal could be maybe even be on that list. You've seen other teams go out and make moves, and now you have Arsenal, who's already spent I think it's almost 60 million on Kai Havertz, and now there's a situation where they could possibly be losing the guy they've been targeting the whole off season so far, which is a huge problem for Arsenal fans' perspective. But for City, this would be a huge addition. If they want to change formation, go to that 4-2-3-1 we saw in the Champions League final, and play with the two holding midfielders. They can have Rodri on one side and Declan Rice on the other. They'll have two, I would like to call them world-class central defensive midfielders, two playmakers in the back that can also defend very well. And that's Declan Rice's role. That's what it was with West Ham. That's what it's going to be with Arsenal. Imagine the midfield with Kai Havertz, Odegaard, and Declan Rice. That's what Arsenal's goal is. And I think that being their goal is the right direction. But for long term, Arsenal needs to get this done for their future's sake, because they're currently, I think, would still finish second. I think there's other teams that can even be pushing them for second next year. They aren't distinctly in second. There's teams in that echelon where Arsenal is right now. I like to put Liverpool in that category. You could put Manchester United, a rising Newcastle. Eventually, if Brighton can bounce back after losing likely they've already lost McAllister, and are likely going to be losing Caicedo to Chelsea or somebody else. How will they bounce back? And that's what if I don't put them in that upper category yet. Speaking of the Premier League, before I go into my other transfer, I am happy to announce that there's two announcements. The streams will only be going on when I'm in this studio. So the plan is long term. We go back to edited videos in September, and I'm happy to announce that I'll be having my first official guest video It'll be filmed in mid-August. It'll probably be out late August for the Premier League and Champions League predictions with Dylan Shallum, good friend of mine. I like to call him that. He can call me whatever he wants, but I'm very excited to have him. He has his own podcast. I'll announce more details as that comes on, but we negotiated that. I think it was yesterday we had a chat about it, but I cannot wait to bring him on the show. He brings a lot of great soccer, footballing knowledge. And I think he'd be the perfect addition to this show. I will be having guests on probably close to September. You'll likely see the Into the Stands guys be on here a couple of times in September and October and beyond. You'll maybe see Christian on here a little bit, maybe discuss what's been going on in the league so far. But if you guys, I want to do this, and this is actually a lot of fun. And I think this could be a lot of fun where me and Dylan go on, and whoever has the worst pick gets a punishment. I think I know what I want to do, but I want your guys' thoughts on it. So comment, do whatever. I mean, we'll discuss it with Dylan, but because we need something in time. The video will probably be, like I said, filmed in mid-August. Both of them will probably be filmed in mid-August, but so there'll be a couple episodes here and there. The NFL talk, which is what will mostly be going on about in September, likely be shifted into the stands for 2 weeks, and then the rest. I'll do an NFL season prediction on here as well. That's probably when we'll add Into the Stands crew onto this channel, which would be very exciting. They're actually at a Yankee game tonight. Shout out to the guys. I think they got like second row tickets. I got to. I saw them on Instagram about it. But besides that, we have the one other major transfer. I'm just looking through this, unless I've missed anything from Fabrizio Romano. Oh yeah, Mason Mount. So far not to Chelsea. So far, United had another bid rejected for Mason Mount. Chelsea did have a counter offer, which is 58 million pounds and 7 million in incentives. But Chelsea have also offered to meet in person to resolve in everyone's interests. And according to Fabrizio Romano, there'll be more to follow. But the big one was Busquets officially becoming an Inter Miami player today. Now, Inter Miami has just been a mess. I mean, MLS, you want to look at the MLS standings, and let me move this over real quick. Because the MLS, look at the standings. I believe Miami's in last, and will continue to be in last until they don't mess up. Because right now they're sitting at 15 points, 5 wins, 12. I think it's 12 losses. They have not drawn a match, which they're the only team in the East to not draw a match. But yeah, it's a very interesting situation from Miami. And looking at them right now, they have 2 matches at hand over 14th place Toronto, which they're imploding as well. Both New York teams are down here. The surprising one's probably New York City, who 2 years ago, actually 18 months ago, lifted the MLS Cup high for the city. But I don't know about them, man. They're a very interesting side. We'll see what they do long term for sure. The surprising one for me is Cincinnati. I'm actually just getting a quick mic check in. It's done. Usually I have this where I have at times the okay, we're good. So I'll move this back to normal. So back to the MLS. The East is a disaster, but quickly update you on what's going on. The West there's 2 teams at the bottom with the Galaxy in Colorado. The surprise team for me has been St. Louis for how good they've been doing. 29 points in 18 matches. No one would have expected that. I don't think so, at least. But Miami officially getting Busquets. They're trying to get that star power, help out Leo Messi. I don't know if they're going to get it done. Playoffs are, I think they're only, I don't remember how the MLS playoffs work, but you have to assume they're about 10 to 12 points out. And I think if Messi plays a lot of the games down the stretch, I think they can make a run for it. But it's really going to depend on what else happens in the transfer window. There's also news of a possible expansion team for the MLS recently, with the locations being, I think it was San Diego, Vegas, and Sacramento. So the team's going to be in the West. I'm very interested. I want them to go to San Diego, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's probably going to be Vegas. which is gonna be disappointing because I'm tired. I'm kind of tired of teams going to Vegas at this point. They just all want the money and they're all greedy, and they're not gonna really, I don't think, benefit from this whatsoever. But any other news of per Fabrizio today? Edson Alvarez is going to be going to Dortmund. That's a fun one. Tonali, I think it was, where's that Tonali deal? That was another deal that was, Cesar Azpilicueta has received a 2-year deal with Inter Milan, which is interesting. There's been I know there's always been respect between Chelsea and Azpilicueta, but that's a very interesting one for me. Ruben Neves officially joined Al Hilal. I said it the Portuguese way, relax. I think that's how you say it in Portuguese. Or, or yeah, let me know if I said it wrong. But the Portuguese man will be heading for 55 million fee from Wolves. Marcelino joins them as head coach. Yeah, there's not really much to have that happened today. Like, they're the big names. Yeah, so the bid today was 50 million and 5 in add-ons for Mason Mount, but yeah, that was the deal for Mason Mount. And now it's time for the tournament that starts tomorrow, and that is the CONCACAF Gold Cup, sponsored by, I think it's Qatar Airways at this one, because Qatar is back in it. Quick side note: two things happened, and I've already made myself look like a fool for this. Curacao lost in qualification, and Nicaragua got disqualified for having an illegal player on the pitch. So going over the groups now after qualifying being done from earlier in the week, or from late last week and early this week, we have Jamaica, St. Kitts, Trinidad is now in the group, along with USA. We have Haiti, Honduras, Mexico, and Qatar. We have Costa Rica, El Salvador, Martinique, and Panama. And then finally, Group D, we have Canada, Cuba, Guadalupe, and Guatemala. Group D is a wash for Canada. I'm interested to see who they throw out on the field. USA is throwing their B squad, so I do have confidence that we can get at least first or second as possible. I love Group C, and it's really going to show how much, if El Salvador is developing the game well over there, because they're going to throw out their A squad, and they're going to throw everything at Costa Rica and Panama. The St. Kitts. So St. Kitts went into the second to last round of qualifying in the no, I think they made the second to last round of qualifying. They made it to the playoff, the second round playoff, and lost. So they have like played some competent team. I think they actually lost to Canada. Let me just look that up real quick for you guys. But if you don't remember how qualifying worked to the previous World Cup, I'll just give you a quick rundown of it. We had, let me just make sure of it. The last round was the octagonal, which I'm gonna be honest, I didn't really hate it. It's just gonna be totally different for what the next round will be like. That's for next year or whenever the tournament's held. That will be very interesting because you're not going to see USA, Mexico, or Canada because I believe they're all going to automatically qualify for the World Cup. It's going to be the matter of what teams are going to be able, what teams you are really going to emerge as those next best teams in the second echelon in CONCACAF. Let me just find out from this. Man, they do not make this easy. So the World Cup qualifying, here we go. Finally. So the second round, St. Kitts lost to El Salvador. I thought it was Canada, but it was El Salvador. They lost 6-0 on aggregate, 4-0, 2-0. Canada beat Haiti, and Panama. That's why I thought Curacao was really going to shine because they played well against Panama, but couldn't get it done. So for the Gold Cup, I've already made my predictions. Let me just see if I remember how I did this. It was USA and Jamaica with the other two. It was Mexico. It was Qatar to Mexico. I said El Salvador makes it deep. I said they make the semifinal, and I had Canada and Cuba. So the teams to really watch out for that are not pot one teams is gonna be El Salvador. And I'm interested to see how Qatar bounces back from their disappointing World Cup. Though I think a team that can now really be counted as sleepers, I'm really interested in Trinidad again. It's going to be Trinidad, maybe even Guadeloupe. Who did it in the Gold Cup? I'm trying to remember my Gold Cup knowledge. But Group C is the group of death, and it's going to be really fun to watch, that's for sure. Jamaica, the Reggae Boys, they're going to throw out some decent players. They have Leon Bailey, Kumar Roof, and I'm forgetting somebody. I feel really bad. But the opening games, let's go through some of the first match day one. It starts on Saturday. We have USA playing Jamaica, the Reggae Boys. Then we have Trinidad on Sunday playing St. Kitts in the battle of who wants to grab points. We have Haiti, Qatar, and Mexico, Honduras. I think it's actually going to be a pretty good game. Let me find out where this game is. It doesn't even say where it is on Google. I mean, find it out now. In Houston, Texas. So that would actually be very interesting to see if there's any home field advantage for either of those sides, really. Then on Monday, so before the stream, we'll have El Salvador, Martinique. I'll give you a score update from that match. And then we'll head into, I believe, match day 2 begins on Tuesday. Wow, Google is really working today, guys. But then we head to Tuesday, or next Tuesday, the end of match day 1 with Canada, Guadalupe, Guatemala, and Cuba. USA, by the way, plays next on Wednesday at 9:30 p.m. They play St. Kitts, which I think is going to be a complete wash. But let's look at the United States roster for the Gold Cup, because I want to give you guys some players to watch out for. When this is load, yeah, everything's loading very slow today. I don't know what the deal is, but we'll look at the roster for this thing. So the roster that was called up, this is not the right roster. Oh, it is. So I think Matt Turner's on this roster again. This is what, the Gold Cup roster. So we have the 3 goalkeepers, but Matt Turner. Where is my guy at? I gotta find. I think it's him. So the players to watch for. So this is a predict. So Jesus Ferreira is also always going to be that main striker that everyone's going to watch out for. But I'm looking at Brandon Vasquez. The number 19 for USA. Let's just pull up on him a little bit. He has 1 goal in 3 matches, but I think this could be the time he shines. He's 6'2" from the FC Cincinnati. He's having a decent year at Cincinnati, so I think he can make a big impact for sure. And I have 2. Of course, you got to talk about the defense. Why am I on This thing is miraculous. By the way, the Women's World Cup starts soon. Let me know if you want me to talk about that. But defenders, I'm very interested to see how Miles Robinson comes back. Miles Robinson was supposed to be that number 2 center back with Walker Zimmerman or somebody else in the World Cup, and then he tore his ACL back in that March and he was out for the season. So I'm very interested to see how he plays. DeAndre Yedlin's been on the national team. He's made 78 he has 78 caps. Buzio, I think, can make a big impact. Aiden Morris is here. Christian Roldan. This team is a disaster. I don't think any of these guys. I think probably Jesus Ferreira. Let me name you the people who were on that World Cup team. You have Matt Turner. I think Sean Johnson was actually on that roster as well. Jordan Morris, Jesus Ferreira, Miles Robinson was on the original roster. And I think that's it. Yeah, and Jordan Morris. So it'll be interesting to see how what the USA look like. They'll probably play that. I believe Callahan's still the coach for this. I'm not sure, but I'm very intrigued. I'm very intrigued to see what the United States can do for sure. They play St. Kitts on Wednesday, and then I think they play Sunday against Trinidad. Sunday, July 2nd, you have to watch that game with Trinidad. I mean, that'll be a fun match to watch out for. There's no games on the 3rd for some reason. I don't hate it. And then on July 4th, this is what I don't like, is there are 4 matches, all fun Gold Cup games. The games to watch out for, I'm going to go on Friday the 30th. The game to watch for match day 2 is going to be out of group letter C again. You have El Salvador and Costa Rica. I think both teams can easily make it out of any group in this tournament. mean, if you threw El Salvador in Group D, I think they make a good run with Canada, possibly, if they don't have their full A squad out there. Group B, I think they would get ransacked, and I think they can beat Jamaica. So El Salvador will not be a pushover for anyone in the Gold Cup. I'm still keeping with the USA win it. I don't be surprised if a team like a Canada. I'm counting out Mexico now for how bad they looked in the Nations League. I'm counting them out now. They did sack their manager, which is good, but they're not anywhere near contending for me right now in the Gold Cup. Qatar, I'm interested. Yeah, like I said earlier, I'm very interested in their bounce back. And then groups, I'm going to just bring this up one more time in Group C. There's going to be no goal scoring here. Costa Rica, Panama, and El Salvador play very defensive formation, so expect a lot of 1-0s. I'll call it the African style of play when there's like 1 or 2 goals, and that's about it. But fun about the Gold Cup, I'm very excited for that. Like I said, in mid-July, I'm going to go over the full recap of the Gold Cup and some other qualifiers that happened. I'll mix it in with baseball. So that'll be a fun video to do. But we now head to the NBA draft. And this was so last night. I actually didn't watch much of this last night or how long it took in the beginning, but we have the shocking pick for me. There's been a lot of winners and losers, so I'll talk about the winners. The winners, you have to say the Spurs. Getting Wembanyama, I think everyone counts him as a world talent. I don't know. I mean, the Spurs didn't mess it up, and they couldn't have messed it up. There's a lot of question marks that came out of this draft for me. The Spurs are one. How does Wembanyama improve your team? How many wins are you? If he stays healthy, how many wins do you actually reasonably think you get with Wembanyama? Will he be the sky high potential that everyone thinks he's going to be? We'll go. I'll do it for the top three. So Brandon Miller on the Hornets was a positional need. I would really be interested to see what LaMelo and Scoot could do, but Brandon Miller I think solidifies the small forward role. The forward from Alabama, and then for Portland, what do you do with Dame? Because Scoot Henderson, I don't remember if he likes to pass a lot. Having Dame around, I think he can hold on to him long term. I don't know how long. He's too loyal. Like this is ridiculous now. I don't know how he's still here, but it'll be interesting to see from what the Blazers do with Damian Lillard. That's for sure. I'm very interested to see what some of these from what a couple certain teams do. Jalen Hood Shafino, I've heard is good from Indiana. Jaime Jaquez going out of UCLA to the Heat, I think is a good pick. Cam Whitmore fell a lot. It was like a failed medical, I think. I think he could have a lot of potential. I think he's a steal for the Rockets at 20 if he stays healthy. Marcus Sasser from Houston, I think is a very good pick at 25. He looked good in Houston. He looked good in March, so I think he could be a very good fit for the Detroit Pistons, who get a good depth piece in Sasser. The shocking one for me was the forwards that didn't get drafted. So and my big one was Sonogo from UConn. I'm very surprised he didn't get picked. And the team I'm surprised that didn't pick him was the Warriors because they might be losing Draymond, even though they're making moves to re-sign Draymond Green. I'm shocked they didn't pick him. I'm shocked Indiana didn't pick him. Milwaukee, like I don't know what they didn't see out of it. I mean, this dude went absolutely nuts. I think Amani Bates is also a steal at 49. This kid used to be like some said he would be like the first pick in like the draft before or something. I remember an NBA 2K. I'll give you an NBA 2K reference. This dude used to go like the first or second pick in every draft I was in. Oh, you do like it's like my league and you try to do like a team rebuild. I used to love to do those. I still love to do them, just not an NBA 2K. And Amani Bates was like the first or second pick in every draft imaginable. Whenever he was in it, it's weird to see him at 49. I think he could be a big steal for Cleveland, that's for sure. Keontae Johnson, I think he could be an impact from K-State. I mean, his story has just been miraculous, so it'll be very fun to see how he pans out. But yeah, a lot of interesting picks, that's for sure. Let me see if I missed anybody here. The Thompson twins, getting picked at 4 and 5, I thought was cool. Grady Dick to the Raptors, I think, could be very interesting because They might be losing Fred VanVleet, even though they play a different position. I'm interested to see how Grady Dick does on the Raptors. Jordan Hawkins, that was the one I was forgetting. Jordan Hawkins to the Pelicans, I think, is a big addition. He looked great in March. He looked great in the Big East. I think Jordan Hawkins has a bright future, possibly with the Pelicans or maybe even with somebody else. I think he has a lot of talent, good off the dribble, can get you to the basket, can shoot the three a little bit. I think Jordan Hawkins will be good with the Pelicans. Let me know if you want me to go in depth on like any team in their offseason. I'm gonna probably preview NBA free agency. I just don't know yet. But like I said, it was a short episode, so it's now time to go into baseball, our last topic of the day. Let me know next time if I missed anything. Hit me up with a DM at rbasel_11, of course. And now it's time for baseball, your weekly baseball season update. Let's start with the American League East. The Rays have continued to be dominant. They're 4.5 games up on Baltimore. The Yankees, who are playing right now, sit in third, a half game ahead of Toronto. Boston has slid a little bit. They're now in fifth, 12 games behind the Rays, 2 out of Toronto, but 2.5 out of a wild card, which is very interesting for sure. Next up, you have the Central, which is still a mess. You have the Twins finally getting back to 500. They have a 1-game lead over the Guardians. The Tigers are 4.5 back. The White Sox are 6 games out. My prediction this season to win that division is in fourth. Yeah, that wasn't very good by me there. And then we head to the West. We have the Rangers, predictably in first. Oakland still in dead last, even though I think they won like 7 straight. They have lost 8 of their last 10. The Mariners have continued to disappoint everyone after their great season last year, and they're in fourth, followed by ahead of them are the Angels, who are in third, the Astros, and then the Rangers still hold it down in first despite losing Jacob deGrom. In the National League East, the Braves have continued to be dominant. They lead 6 games over the Marlins. What? Okay. The Phillies are ahead of the Mets, and then the Nationals. I'll go ahead on the Mets in a second. In the Central, the first place team now is Cincinnati? Who've won 10 straight, and the Pirates have lost 10 straight for them to get themselves here? What the This division's the definition of random. The Cardinals still doing nothing. Everyone's predicted division winner other than Chris from the Into the Stand. I think Colin said the Cardinals as well. But wow. The Brewers, who I actually get to go see in person on Wednesday, when they play the Mets at Citi Field, I'll be there. They are in second, actually looking kind of competent. And then in the West, the Giants have won 9 of 10 to jump everybody and go into second behind the Diamondbacks, who's continued to play competent baseball. The Padres, are the second most disappointing team in the most disappointing team in the National League, ahead of the Mets and the Cardinals. They're in fourth, and then the Rockies expect anything different. But I mean, let me talk about the Mets. I'll talk about a couple of teams today. And the first one's got to be the Mets. And I know there'll be people saying, fire Billy Epler, fire everybody, trade for all these million players. This just proves that throwing money out to get players doesn't always work. Tampa Bay has proved this. We've seen other teams prove it as well. What the Mets are doing, I wasn't high on Verlander in the beginning. I thought he was a solid sign, but I don't know like how big of an impact he'd be. I thought we'd go younger. We didn't, and it's not panning out very well for us. We're 14 games back on the Braves. The part that worries me more is that we are, I think, 7 games out of a wild card spot in mid to late June. That's actually weird to say that it's mid to late June and I'm still doing this thing, which is miraculous. But yeah, weird situation, that's for sure, with the Mets. You want to, as a fan, say that they're going to bounce back. My problem is I don't know if they're going to. I think they could possibly be the White Sox of last season, where they have a solid team and just everything falls apart. That's just the way I see it. All right, now I'm just checking something real quick. 'Cause I know I'm gonna be on stream for I'm gonna try and be on for the trade deadline. I don't know yet what I'm gonna be doing since I do have work that day, but I'll figure it out for you guys. That'll be a lot of fun if I get to record on the trade deadline day. But right now, the next team I'm going to talk about is the Marlins. I have to talk about the Marlins. They've had Sandy Alcantara still be bad and still be one of the better teams in baseball. They're currently ahead 1-0 in the 8th inning against the Pirates. But looking at this team, sorry if I'm yawning a lot, by the way. It's been a very tiring last couple of days, honestly. But Luzardo on the mound taking on the Pirates. He's been solid this season as well. Let's just look at the team statistics. The stats for the players, not the overall teams. The stud on this team, you got to point out the Jorge Soler. That's the first thing I was thinking of. I think he's playing up an all-star type of season at DH. 73 games, 21 home runs, 45 RBIs, hitting 252 with an 885 OPS. But everyone's going to be talking about this guy, Luis Arias, who is hitting 402 again. I want him to bat over 400. I want him to do it. I was skeptical about them trading away Pablo Lopez for Arias. And that right now it looks like it's worked for both teams. Arias is currently hitting, let me look at this again if I can scroll over right. He has a 402 average, 452 on base, 487 slugging, 939 OPS, which is just nuts. 2 home runs, 35 RBIs, second on the team in RBIs. He can draw you some walks. He doesn't strike out very much. He is 109 hits, which leads the team by a country mile. I'm not even kidding. The next closest one is Brian De La Cruz, who, if I can do math, he has 35 less hits. They have the same amount of doubles. De La Cruz has 8 home runs, but right now, I mean, I'd rather Arias, that's for sure. I can't be able to compare the two, but Jesus Sanchez is also having a sleeper season. Right now, he has only 4. It's not the wrong player. 6 home runs, 22 RBIs for Jesus Sanchez, but he has an 820 OPS. If you look at guys who have over and have a decent OPS, I don't know what happened there. All right, OPS isn't working, but yeah, I mean, there's multiple guys on this team with over an 800 OPS that have played a lot of games, which is very good for a team like them. But if you look at the pitching as well, players have started to emerge, and I like to point out one, and it's got to be Jesus Luzardo, 90 and 2/3 innings. Sandy Alcantara has a 5 ERA. Luzardo only has a 3.77. You have a guy like a Braxton Garrett who has a 3.64. The strikeout numbers prove it all, but look at the rest of it. Edward Cabrera is a 4.7. Yuri Perez is in 41 innings, 1.54. They're getting good use out of their bullpen. They're doing a lot well. The numbers for Alcantara are concerning, 2-6 with a 5 ERA, but the Marlins again, like I said, are getting it done without him, and that's the really important part for them. That's for sure. We've talked about the Reds before. You got to look at this Giants team and what they've done. The San Francisco Giants, we counted them out. If you remember, me and the Into the Stands guys, we counted it out after they messed up not getting Arson Judge. I vaguely remember. I'll tell you a quick story. We were at I don't even remember what it's called. Like Gale Gate, I think is what it was called. I think that's what we were at. And we all went to get food. We come back to this table, and Colin or Chris, I don't know. I think it was Chris, got a notification on Twitter, and it said the Giants have signed Arson Judge, and he was losing his mind. And we were like, what the heck happened? Like, is everything okay? He's like, Judge went to the Giants. I'm like, what are you talking about? And then eventually it said, like, he's not going to the Giants. And Chris and Colin were so relieved. But shout out to those guys. I cannot wait to do Into the Stands again back in September. It's going to feel really good to be back in that studio working for WIUR again. I cannot wait for that. That's for sure. But back to the Giants. They're 42-33. They've won 9 of 10. They've played a lot of really good baseball. You have the Reds who've won 10 straight. I talked about them before. The Cubs have won 8 of 10 as well. In the American League, the disappointment from the Seattle Mariners, who I've hyped up a lot, continue. But the Baltimore Orioles and some of these other teams are getting it done while being in interesting situations. And I'll talk about those interesting situations again another time. Shorter stream, like I said, this is a different link. I have to edit the links and put them the right ones on Instagram and all that. Make sure you follow my Instagram at rbasel11 so you can get updates on when I'm posting videos. Videos will be going at 8 p.m. usually every Monday and Friday. There will be some changes coming up. And in a couple of weeks, you won't see me in the studio. I will be on the road. More about that to come later. But for myself, I'm Robbie Basel. Thank you guys for watching episode 13. Make sure to like and subscribe. I'll see you guys Monday night.